Last week, $122 million to ISIS. We found. They fund all the terrorist groups in Pakistan. They fund the terrorist groups in the Sahel in Africa.
And for what purpose?
Paramilitary terrorist groups are extremely useful to U.S. statecraft as for DoD special operations work, as well as for political destabilization work. I'll give you a great example. We'll stay in Pakistan. Osama bin Laden, warrior on the road to peace. Everyone remember the puff pieces about Osama bin Laden before the Mujahideen. The Mujahideen. Here's a great clip. Can you find the clip of Zbigniew Brzezinski airdropping out of a helicopter?
1989?
No, 79, I believe. It was
1979.
Yeah. If you type in Zbigniew Brzezinski, that's going to be a wallop one to spell live. But if you just do Zbigniew, and you'll watch him airdrop out of a helicopter and make the exact same speech that John McCain made to the Azov Battalion, the extremist paramilitary faction of Ukraine that was banned from getting federal funding, in 2014 when the Democrats said they're all Nazis, but now they're all, sponsored and get standing ovations in the halls of Congress because now they are geopolitically useful to capacity build. So here you go. So here you go.
U.S. National Security Advisor Brzezinski flew to Pakistan to set about rallying resistance. He wanted to arm the Mujahideen without revealing America's role. On the Afghan border near the Khyber Pass, he urged the soldiers of God to redouble their efforts.
Could you pause for a sec? Notice how he said he wanted to arm the Mujahideen without revealing America's role. Okay? The whole point was to pump up this, fundamentalist, extremist, terrorist group with the funding and support they need, but without revealing America's role. Hello, USAID. That's the function today, but keep on.
No, of their deep belief in God, and we are confident. That land over there is yours. You'll go back to it one day because your fight will prevail and you'll have your homes and your mosques back again because your cause is right and God is on your side.
That land is yours. Go out there and take it. We'll give you the money, but you could also find it searching either X or YouTube of John McCain, and I believe he was with Lindsey Graham, making that exact same speech, using the same language in, I believe it was 2016 or 2014, I believe it was 2016, around then, to the Azov Battalion folks in Ukraine and to the paramilitaries. It's almost word for word.
Against Russia. Enough of a Russian aggression. It is time for them to pay a heavier price. The fight is not with the Russian people, but with Putin. Our promise to you is to take your cause to Washington.
Наша обіцянка – це те, що ми вашу боротьбу доведемо до Вашингтона.
Inform the American people of your bravery and make the case against Putin to the world.
I believe you will win. I am convinced you will win, and we will do everything we can to provide you with what you need to win. And we have succeeded not because of equipment, but because of your courage.
Але через вашу відважність.
So I thank you, and the world is watching. And the world is watching because we cannot allow Vladimir Putin to succeed here. Because if he succeeds here, he will succeed in other countries.
Let me stick on the Mujahideen thing for a second, because this gets back to this fundamental structuring of why USAID is tasked with this. There's a bigger budget than the CIA USAID does. It capacity builds the assets that CIA liaises with. But if the assets aren't there, CIA has no one to tell what to do. They've none of their agents on the ground or case officers can build an action plan unless there are assets on the ground that have money, that have training, that have food, that have shelter, and U.S. aid steps in to put the chess pieces on the board that the CIA can play with. Interestingly, I should note that the CIA gets a copy of every grant that the National Endowment for Democracy makes. This was published in the New York Times in a piece called Global Missionaries for Global Pluralism about USAID's top operational arm, NED. Why were we funding terrorists in the 1970s and 80s? Well, according to our national security advisor, Zbigniew Brzezinski, the grand chessboard, this celebrated apex predator of American statecraft, quote that was something like, well, what is arming a few Islamic fundamentalists matter when weighed against the history of America winning the Cold War? That this fundamentally destabilized and bogged the Soviet Union down. This was extremely effective, but also, how did we fund the Mujahideen? Well, the Mujahideen is in Afghanistan. They were, before they became Al-Qaeda and ISIS. What asset does Afghanistan have to play with in order to fund war network, its paramilitary network? Well, it's the drug network. They happen to sit on the, basically the poppy fields that, when exploited, comprise 95% of the world's heroin, if you export that. And so the CIA-backed, State Department, USAID-backed, and we can go through receipts of USAID doing this same, drugs for cash for guns work in the 1960s, practically from the day it was born. But what they were doing is they were taking those poppy harvests and then they were depositing them in CIA proprietary banks like BCCI, major scandal. Had become one of the world's largest banks, and it was basically a CIA front, and it was a Pakistani frontman for this, and it was converting, effectively washing the proceeds of these drugs so that they could be so that the Mujahideen could buy arms, while the Pakistani militants were being funded and trained in Pakistan, and then they go to Afghanistan, conduct military operations against the Russians, who were our stated Cold War enemy. The same thing's happening today, though. If you go on my X feed right now, I'm going to show you something related to this and how this still goes on today. USAID has been busted multiple times for actually cultivating the poppy and heroin production.
Thank Mr. Brzezinski. Zbigniew Brzezinski is with us today.
Dr. Brzezinski, I can't say enough about his contribution to our country.
In his life, he was called a peacemaker, cold warrior, hardened realist, bridge builder. Others called him professor, mentor, author, and friend. Many called him one of the most influential foreign policy minds of our time. To those who knew him, he was big. To my brothers and me, he was Dad. And security advisor for President Carter, Dr. Zbigniew Brzezinski. Hi, Dad.
Also known as Good Morning, Dad.
And my dad, Dr. Zbigniew Brzezinski, is on the set. I'm hyperventilating.